Hi everyone, Assalamu alaikum, welcome to my YouTube video. In today's video I'm going to be talking about my grief story and my journey of losing my mum to stage 4 lung cancer, and how I've gone from losing her and being a complete broken mess to what I am today. This video is for those ladies who've messaged me on my page asking about ways to cope with grief and asking about how to move on from the death of a loved one. I'd like to just very quickly add that this is my personal experience, and the coping mechanisms that I've used and the journey that I've been on is going to be quite different from everybody else's. Some people take a little bit longer than others, some people don't take as long. The intention behind this video is to give hope, and also because when I lost my mum I was looking for a similar video. A young British Muslim girl who'd lost her mum. Always need my tissue box when I'm speaking about this. I lost my mum to stage 4 lung cancer. It was just after my 26th birthday. She was diagnosed on the 4th of December 2016 and she died on the 21st of December 2016. So those of you who know me personally will know that I grew up as an only daughter. Mum and I were best friends. We did everything together, as most girls do, and she was gotten really well, and a lot of the issues that I speak about on my MyVars page are issues that we used to discuss. It was really sad because my one of my aunts came around to do a source when my mum passed away. A source means condolences, sorry. And she said, this is the same auntie who used to sit on the same sofa as her mum. And you know, I can't see that anymore. I think a lot of people could sense my loneliness when my mum did pass away, and it was something that took me a very, very long time to kind of, you know, get to grips with. When I had my daughter, my mum was over the moon. She was a first-time nanny, and she was 50 years old, so you know, quite a young age to become a grandma. And she was really looking forward to it. And she's always said to me, you know, I wish that I'm alive for the day that your children are born. And I feel as though I'm so blessed that alhamdulillah she got to see my daughter. It was a very brief relationship they had for about 1.5 years, but you know, she looked after her, and you know how, you know, we go over to her mum's houses after we've had babies, and I remember she did all the night rounds, she fed my daughter, she looked after me. I mean, it was a sort of care and a relationship that really, really cannot be compared to any other. So when she passed away, you know, people would say, you know, the dua of a mother is really powerful. And when she passed away, I thought, I don't have my mum's duas anymore. But I remember that when she was in the hospital, this was the last time that I saw her before the day that she passed away. She was in a hospice, and I said, Mum, why are you crying? And she said, nothing. She always said nothing. I never knew what she wanted to say. And I tried to brush her hair, and she said, no, leave it, because I don't think she wanted to become dependent on anyone. And I said, no, Mum, let me. In a few years' time, Amelia, my daughter, will be brushing her hair. And she cried and said, Inshallah, because she knew it wouldn't happen. So like, I obviously got quite upset, thinking like, you know, what sort of daughter am I to lie to my mum? Like, I know she's dying. I didn't know she was going to die so soon, but I knew that she hasn't got long. So I remember going to my mum's house on my 26th birthday. It was. My husband said, what do you want to do for your birthday? And I just said, I want to go to my mum's. And he said, oh, okay then. And I knew she wasn't well. She was saying that she was having chest pain for a while, and the doctor said that it was acid reflux, that they would send her for a biopsy, and the biopsies kept coming back inconclusive. So it was a really stressful time for our family. I remember going to her house and seeing her arms, and they were like this small, and I thought, you know, wow, there's something really wrong with her. You know, she was really thankful. She said, you know, Changa hai dua kiya, which means, you know, it's really good that you came. Sorry. I'm so glad that I went, because that was the last time that you know, going to your mum's is such a big thing in our culture. It was the last time that I went to my mum's house, and it was on my birthday. So yeah, I remember after that she got admitted into hospital. So as she was in hospital, her condition got worse and worse. She lost even more weight. She had to start eating pureed foods. She lost her appetite, and they said they were going to start a round of chemo as well. You know, people always remember the day that your parents die. There's another date that's which always gets me really sad, is the 4th of December. I was at work, I was sitting in the staff room, and you know, I get that call. My brother said, call me back as soon as possible, and I thought, goodness, I don't know what's happening. And he said, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with Mum, but I don't want you to cry. That was like my biggest fear. And I remember within, like, obviously job interviews and stuff, people would ask things like, what is your biggest fear? And I always said my biggest fear was losing my parents. You know, and he said Mum's got stage 4 cancer, and the doctor said that they're going to try to, you know, it's not curable, but you know, they're going to prolong life. And I just thought, why? Like, I just didn't get it. And it's really strange because I remember, like, there was a time when I was driving down the M1, and you know how they say that you shouldn't get too attached to this dunya. I generally feel like, you know, there was a time where I was on social media, and I kept getting, like, you know, these posts saying, you know, the akhirah, and I was thinking, oh, I'll think about it when I'm older. And you know, I used to think I love this life so much, I love this world so much. I used to essentially live life to the fullest. I used to love dressing up, I loved makeup, I loved all the things that young girls do. So even when she passed away, that all came to a stop really, really abruptly, and it impacted my personality, impacted my appearance, it impacted the way that I was speaking to others. But I remember that the day that she was diagnosed, my brother said that she asked the doctor, am I going to die of it? And the doctor said something like, yes, you will. And then after that, when I got to the hospital, we never spoke about it. I mean, how can you speak to your mum? How can you tell the person that you love the most in your life that, you know, you're going to die, and this is what's going to happen? She didn't speak about it either. She knew and we knew, but she never spoke about it. Mum was always a very smiley person, and her smile faded. There's no spark in her eyes. It was just, she cried all the time. And you know, I do think she repented. She died. Somebody said to me, people who die in this state, their sins are all forgiven. And I thought, what sins did she commit? But it's like we always think that our parents are correct and, you know, they can't ever do anything wrong. When I started getting a bit more into my religion and, you know, reading Quran for her, and praying a bit more, I realised that actually she was probably alone for a good amount of time, you know, in the evenings when no one was allowed to stay over. Of course she probably did do dua and she probably did repent. You know, Allah Mia chose for her to be close to him at her end time. And I remember, like, a week before she died, she had a Surah Yasin near her, and she was reading it. I remember I took that Yasin when she passed away, and I thought, I'm going to read this every Thursday. So if you've lost a parent, I think, you know, reading for them is something so unique. I used to read for her, and then I used to make dua, and I used to make dua that it reaches her. I saw her in my dreams. I saw her a number of times. The one dream that I will share, that gave me a lot of hope, is that she looked at me in the dream, and she had like a tube here on her neck. I don't know what it was for. And in the dream she looked really healthy, so her cheeks were plump, her hair was flowing. She opened the door, and I said, Mum, you okay? And she said, yeah, I'm fine, look, they've taken the cancer away. And I said, what are you talking about? Who's taking the cancer away? And she was in a house and it was full of people. And I remember when she was in the hospital, she'd say stuff like, when you do your housewarming, wait for me, don't do it without me. And I don't know, we don't know, we have no knowledge of the unseen, but, you know, it was almost as if she's, you know, she's in a better place. Before she passed away, I started praying my namaz. I realised how much I wasn't praying enough and how much I wasn't making enough dua. And, you know, a lot of people say pray more, read more, you know, and sometimes you think, why are you telling me to pray more and read more? That's not making me feel better, that's not taking the pain away of my mum. But actually it did. It really helped with the grief, and in prayer I found like solace, and it was just like my time to conversate with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and tell him how I was feeling. It was a Thursday, and I'd spoken to my mum on the Tuesday, and she said she wasn't feeling very well. But I said, Mum, I'll see you on the weekend, because I was working and I do live 2 hours away from my parents. So I thought I'll go on the weekend, Mum. But something was saying to me, go on the Thursday. So I dropped my daughter off to nursery, and I thought I'll wear a pink jumper and pink lipstick, because I want Mum to be in a good mood, and we're going to get through this, because the doctors at the hospice had said that she could potentially go home, you know, for the holidays, and we were quite excited. I bought my daughter a dress for like her welcome home party, and you know, obviously it never happened. I remember driving down the M1, and my brother's like, hurry up, and I said, what happened? And he said, just hurry up. And I knew something wasn't right, and the feeling was as if, I don't know, like my insides were just going to come out. I thought, something is not right here, like, she's passed away and they're not telling me. And I remember, like, you know, playing surahs on YouTube while I'm driving. I was shaking, and I thought I'm going to have a car crash, because I was so scared. And I just kept repeating, Allah, please let me see her, let me see her, let me see her, you know, just once more. And I drove to the hospital, and you know, there's some scenes that never leave your head. My two brothers were stood at the entrance of the hospital, and I thought, this is really unreal. And it's like I couldn't hear what was going on around me anymore. And you know, I said, where's Mum? And you know, they said she's just upstairs. And I went upstairs and I opened the curtains, and she's just there on an oxygen mask, and you know, all of her lips were scabby and everything, because obviously she'd been taking so much oxygen. There were tears in her eyes. My dad said, you know, Aati aiye, and sorry, she was crying. I thought, what does she want to say to me? And I kept saying to her, like, you know, you can't go, like, how can you go? Like, what's gonna happen to me? And I think, like, at the time of death, everyone just thinks, like, you know, mera kya hoga, like, what's gonna happen to me? I'm gonna be all on my own. So yeah, my dad was like, oh, kalma paro, like, this is the end now. And I was like, no, it can't be the end. No, I was refusing to accept that, this was the end. She carried on breathing. And I remember I went away into another room. My brother just came running and said, come quickly. And, I remember my mum was just there with the mask on, and she stopped breathing. And I said to Mahala, she passed away. And Mahala said, yeah, she hadn't really alarms here. I'd never seen somebody pass away before. And me and my brothers were holding on to her until my mum passed away in our arms, and there was nothing that we could do about it. And it's a memory that will stay with me for life. I also remember when she was in hospital, I didn't like to see her with her eyes closed or sleeping, because I used to be really restless at night time, thinking that what's she going to look like in her coffin when she's got the shroud around her and everything. And these images kept coming in my head, and I really didn't like it. It was something really new for me. I also took part in my mum's ghusl, and that was a very unique experience. And I think at that point in my life it kind of hit me that there is life beyond this. We knew there was a concept of a hereafter, and there were tests in this world, but we'd never been tested in this way. When my dad got ill, he always got better, and we expected the same to happen. My mum had a heart attack when she was 40, and after a couple of months, alhamdulillah, she was fine, so we never really expected this to happen with us. I remember following her death, the only way I can describe it is I lost my appetite for this world. I didn't want to do a lot of things. I didn't go to any birthdays, gatherings, parties, anything for almost 8 or 9 months. And the first one that I did go to, I cried a lot because my mum wasn't there. And I think the way that you deal with this is that it does get easier over time. So every gathering that I went to and she wasn't there, I used to remember her and which seat she was sat in, or what clothes she was wearing, or the conversation she was having. And obviously her siblings felt it as well. I remember when I came back home, I didn't stay the full 40, the custom to stay 40 days. I wanted to get back to work as quick as possible, and I just wanted to kind of move on, but I think I rushed myself too much. That when the summer holidays came and there was less to do, I cried and I couldn't cope because I wasn't that busy anymore. I just cried and I couldn't cope with being at home, and I didn't give myself that chance to grieve. So I think if you have lost a parent, it's really, really important to give yourself that time. I refused to take any counselling. In fact, it was just before the lockdown that I thought, I'm still not healed, I don't feel right. One of the hardest things about losing my mum was bumping into people that knew her. I live over 100 miles away from my hometown where I grew up, but it was almost as if when she passed away, I lost any desire to go there. In fact, I wanted to avoid it altogether. People say they're going to her mum's, I love going to her mum's, I can't wait. I used to get really upset at work because I used to see some girls saying they're going straight from work on a Friday, a little bit like I used to, and I'm going to go and spend the weekend at my mum's, and I was used to think, I don't have that anymore. I don't have a Maka Gar, I don't have a mum's home. And I used to think that why did Allah Ta'ala pick me of all people? Why something happened to you start to take perspective a lot later than when that thing has happened. So it does take a lot of time. So I remember initially I thought, why me? Like, I'm a young girl, I wanted to enjoy my life, Not that Quran and Namaz isn't enjoying life, but there were loads of things like, now it was like making a conscious effort to ensure that Salah was first and everything else was second. So there were certain clothes that I used to wear that I got rid of immediately. I went through a phase where, I stopped wearing bright colours, I stopped wearing lipstick, and I stopped wearing lots of things. And I remember one of my really close friends getting married, and, where they do like the Ludi, and they like go around and, kind of do like a little dance. And I just said to my other mate, I'm just going to sit here, I don't want to take part, please don't call me up. And it was almost as if I stopped living for a little while, because as I was living and she was not, and it's a sense of guilt when I went to the graveyard. I used to cry loads, and I didn't go to a graveyard for a very long time. I went recently and I just cried and cried because I thought, she's underneath, she's somewhere else, and we're here and we're living and she doesn't get to. But then after a few years you begin to realise that everything has a reason, and although some may say, you get older and you become close to God, or you develop an awareness, I genuinely feel like so blessed that Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala picked me, chose me, and I would give all those things up, just to be with her again. So in the grand scheme of things, you're not really giving up much, this is all for Allah anyway. So think of it as a massive loss. When I lost my mum, I lost a part of me. I felt like when we buried her, a part of me went with her too. Naturally, because your mothers are a part of you and you're a part of your mothers. It was a really, really difficult time, and I remember trying to search for people who'd lost their mum. I had a friend whose mum had passed away a bit before mine of cancer, and I remember completely avoiding her because I didn't want to hear that my mum might pass away too. But I got in touch with her, and her name is Spoken Grief. She posts grief stories and gives advice and resources. and she's also South Asian, so she understands, you know, the concept of grief within the South Asian community. I feel like a lot of people think because you've got children or you've got kids, you should move on, get on with your life, and you know, but people don't seem to realize that that relationship that you have with your mum is so unique. It's not something that can be compared to anyone else. One of the reasons that I started my page, and it took me a very long time, was I had discussed doing something like this with my mum, and I thought, I'm very busy with work, I've got a little child to look after, maybe when I'm a bit more free. And she said, you know, you should definitely do something. I found out so much about my religion and faith, and you know, I still don't feel like I know enough. And it's my mum's death that turned me towards that, to find out more about our religion and our origins and where we came from and where we're going to return to. The theme that I found after reading the Quran for the first time in English was that our religion does not stand for injustice and you know, unfair dealings, and generally being dishonest and unkind and unfair to those around you. And I thought, you know something, you don't have to be an alim or a scholar to, you know, stand for what's right. And whilst I lost purpose in my life when mum passed away, I repurposed it with other things, and I thought there are things that I want to do in my lifetime, not just for her but for myself as well. These were conversations that I used to have with myself. People might call me crazy, but it's one of the ways that I coped with the grief, was to speak about what I was feeling when nobody was home, and kind of speak to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and, you know, tell him all of my feelings. So I'm doing this 3 years after mum passed away, and I still think it's a little bit early to do it. So yeah, my advice to those girls or boys who've lost your parent is pray. You know, pray for them, make dua for them, they need it. When my mum passed away, the imam at the mosque said that there's 3 things that a person leaves behind, and one of them is a righteous child who prays for them. So I thought, that is what I'm going to do. If I can't do anything else, that is what I'm going to do. And I made it a mission, and I read something about how our duty to our parents continues even after they've passed away. So I ensure that I'm making dua for her every single day, reading for her, asking the reading to reach her, asking the reward to reach her, and it gives me a lot of peace doing that. But I think we have to be very, very honest with ourselves, that when you do lose somebody, that grief is not something that goes away, and it's still with me, and it shapes my character to this very day. It's a process, and I don't think there's ever a day that comes where you think, I've completely forgot my mum, or I've completely forgot my dad. That never happens. And sometimes you do think, you know, why did I have to lose my mum at such a young age? There's so many people who've got their mums and they don't do anything for them, and they don't have a relationship with them. But then I've lost my mum. I mean, I could have done with her to be with me for a few more years. You know, she was supposed to be there for all of my milestones, and she isn't. But you know, after a while the tears dry up and the complaints get less and less, and you know, you start to put things into perspective a little bit. And it is hard. Our family struggle massively, and we still do. Our mum's not here, but you know, there's so many other things that we think that Allah Ta'ala has given us to, you know, heal those wounds and to make the process a little bit easier. Don't despair if you have lost your mum or lost a parent. Always pray for them. Pray that they're in a better place, and ask Allah Ta'ala to remove your grief and to make it easier for you, because it is a crippling feeling. It's an overwhelming emotion. Grief is, that people don't understand. A lot of people, when a parent passes away, says, I can imagine. You can't imagine. You don't know what it feels like until it's happened to you. And I feel like if I find out that somebody has lost their mum, that I relate to them so much more, and I look for them and I search for them and I say, you know, can I read Fatiha for your mum, or can I make a dua for your mum? I feel as though there's something there that we share with each other that other people don't. Losing a mother is like losing your comfort and, you know, losing yourself in it. So the loss of a parent is something that is unimaginable, and you know, when I think of my mum's life and all of the hardships that she did go through and all the experience that she did go through, I still wonder. I mean, it's a question that I'll continue to ask myself throughout my life, is that, why did it have to happen this way? What if things were different? But we all have to accept that this is part of Allah's plan, and we must strive to do well here in order to be reunited with them in the next world, inshallah. So if you've lost a parent, I hope that, you know, Allah Ta'ala gives you sabr and helps you to cope with things in your own way and to become closer to Him, because it's a really hard truth, but anything, even the death of a parent, if it brings you closer to God, it's far better for you. And I've understood this after so long. I still question it. There are days where I really, really get shaky and upset and think, no, I just want her back. I'd rather have her back. I'd rather not have her gone. But then I really sit down and think about it, and I think anything that's drawn me closer to Him, and the way that my mum's death drew me closer to Allah was a way in which nothing else could have. I remember when she passed away, I thought, where is she? You know, we buried her, but where is she? Is she gone? Where do people go when they die? And I started researching, I started reading, and I thought, this is where she is. And, you know, I want to see her again, and I need to work really hard to see her again. And I try to improve myself. I try to pray more. I try to become closer to God, and I asked Him to guide me along the way. And there were lots of things I had to give up in order to do that. May Allah grant all of our parents Jannah, and may He reunite us with them in the hereafter, and may He make this pain worth it, because I always think that the pain that came with losing my mum, if there's something far better in it for me, I'd rather wait. And and Allah Ta'ala has given us so much that we should be thankful for and should be grateful for. Somebody who has lost their parents should speak about them. Don't stay quiet, don't bottle it up. It will come back and consume you, and that is what happened to me. And I'm not saying it's not a race, there's no rush to get over the death of a parent, but take it slowly, and speak about them, speak about the things that they enjoy doing, make their favourite foods, pray for them, read for them, look at old photographs of them, smell their clothes, anything. And even till today, like a scent, I remember that whenever I go into Zara, I always remember my mum, sometimes specifically going to Zara so I can remember my mum, because there's a smell in that shop. And it reminds me of the time me and my mum in Pakistan. I bought a bunch of things that I didn't even need from there, and it was one of the last times that I'd travelled with my mum. So anything, a scent, a song, a photo, some clothes, anything that reminds you of them. And there's nothing wrong with looking at those things and crying. I remember that I used to take time out to cry, because I needed that. I needed to let my emotions out. I needed to remember her. I needed to cry, and I used to wait for everyone to leave the house and sometimes cry loudly. And it's not something that I'm ashamed of. I used to get really, really emotional and really vocal, and it kind of really helped me to release my emotions. So that was my coping mechanism. I don't know whether it will help other people. So anyway, thank you very much for listening to my personal grief journey. I hope that this video benefited you in some way. If you would like to send a question, you can do that on my Instagram at myavaz. Grief is one of the things that I do cover as a taboo subject within the South Asian community, because it is something that people don't want to speak about. Okay, take care. Thank you. Khud Hafiz.